Morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to this session about how do we engage the Jordanian diaspora in the economic development of Jordan. I was talking to Dr. Omar Razaz, and I said, "You've been talking about this for 4 years. Finally, it's it's actually happening." And I really think that if you look at Jordan, the last statistics say that Jordanians bring back about $3.2 billion to Jordan. Unfortunately, a lot of it is not direct investment. It is, for consumption, most of it. There is over 800,000 Jordanians. Many of them, the statistics show about 43% have college education. Now, some people say this is the brain drain. And when I mentioned this once in a presentation, some really smart person told me, well, a brain drain is better than a brain in the drain. So, but we don't think so. We really think that this is an asset that is not tapped. Many people in the world, we know, have capitalized in their diaspora, because these are people who are embedded in social and economic networks. They have a tie to their homeland, an emotional tie to their homeland, and they want to be part of giving back and sharing and part of the development. I know the Jordanians, especially, we started with the United States because His Majesty, when he went to Silicon Valley in May, he met with, some of them flew all the way here to be with us. He met with about 25 really key Jordanian individuals in the United States and Silicon Valley in the tech sector. And that really inspired a lot of us to say, okay, how do we engage? And he clearly told us, I hope in 2 years, when I come back, this thing does not fall into the crack. It's very exciting. I hope you can pull it together. And these are a group of people who are really committed to doing something and to contributing and to lead the initiative. Today we have at least 3. Yesterday we have the solar charging station led by Dr. Saeed Hallaj and Synopsys and Zaid Ayoub and Intel and many people working in the United States trying to do something back in Jordan. As a USAID program, we want to support that. We want to be your concierge, as Bill told me. We'll be your support office in any legal workforce development, training, what have you, that we can do in Jordan to attract these people, not necessarily to come back and live here. Or you're welcome if you want to, of course, but just being engaged. And we call it brain circulation. So come do a sabbatical in Jordan, come start up a company, invest in a startup, mentor an entrepreneur in the US, really get engaged. And I know a lot of the Jordanians are abroad, are interested to get engaged. We just need to create that platform. How do we do that? And how to provide them with information and facilitate for them what they need to do in Jordan. But also we have people like Dr. Amjad Larian and Dr. Omar Razaz, who were themselves diaspora, came back to Jordan, and actually their impact in the country was bigger than themselves. They really created something valuable in Jordan. And these are the people also who can, as Dr. Amjad told me, can talk to Jordanians abroad, rather than the Jordan Investment Board, with all respect, going, and government going, talking to the Jordanians abroad, who immediately assume that they're going after their taxes, and they want to get them to pay taxes. We let the people who came back, made it here, to go talk to their counterpart and to their colleagues in the United States and elsewhere in the world eventually, to show them the opportunities, that Jordan presents a lot of opportunities for investment, for business. I don't want to take too much of your time. We have a really distinguished panel today. But before we introduce the panel, we want to share with you this concept. Just a little, 3 or 4 slides, not too much presentations, that will show the vision of this organization. What would it do? What is the objective? What are the initiatives? And how it's going to be structured? And then I'll give the floor to Rami Rihani, who is with Accenture in the DC area, who will give us a little presentation. We have a short first cut, let's call it, of a short video that we would like to share with you. Rami.
Assalamu alaikum, sabah al-khair. Shukran lamajikum. Thank you for coming. So let's play the video, sort of a teaser, and then I'll introduce myself and the panel. So if you go to that folder, please. Yeah. There you go.
Brain drain is a real problem facing Jordan and emerging markets. Many such nations seek to effectively benefit from the expertise of its own diaspora for homeland advancement and future development. USA-Jordan Competitiveness Program extensive efforts in this domain were accelerated when His Majesty King Abdullah II visited the U.S. under the innovative Jordan theme in May 2014, resulting in the creation of a network with an initial U.S. chapter to address Jordan's brain drain challenge, aiming to develop, operate, and maintain a sustainable network where professional Jordanian diaspora around the globe and their counterparts in Jordan can interact and collaborate. Initial targeted sectors: information and communications technology, energy, water and environment, medical sciences. The objectives of this initiative aim to transfer knowledge, attract investment, mentor and coach, access to markets. Jordan witnessed several success stories benefiting from the Jordanian diaspora. To name a few: J-Tronics, Oasis 500, Pharmacy One, Synopsys, Mentor Graphics, Princess Somaya University for Technology, Petra Solar, Allcell. Announcing Connect.jo, Professional Jordanians Abroad. Brain drain is a real problem facing Jordan and emerging.
It's a big problem. It keeps happening. All right. Thank you. So I just wanted to tell you a bit about myself and some personal impressions of the forum so far, and then we'll dive into this. So my name is Rami Rihani. I was born and raised in Jordan and left here in 91 to go do my graduate school in the US, and I've been there ever since for 23 years. When we were working on this, we were told the difference between a diaspora and an expat. And my parents probably still think I'm an expat wanting to come back, but the reality is a diaspora member is somebody that goes to work and live and is staying, right? I mean, to Sam's point earlier, there's expats, like a lot of our American friends here, come here to work and planning to go back. They're expats in Jordan. But this is, looking at the conference so far and talking about the puzzle, if you will, of how to increase Jordan's competitiveness, and talking about job creation and job growth and talent and all the challenges and the objectives that we want to aim at. The diaspora is a piece of that puzzle, I think. And what we're aiming to do since May, and to tell you a little bit about sort of how we got to this point, which is honestly a very big deal for the core team that started working on this since May. So we basically have been meeting virtually every week. We all met each other. Some of us knew each other before. In May, when His Majesty came to Berkeley in Northern California, and Wissam was there, did a presentation. We were all sitting in the room and said, all right, let's get together and start thinking about this. We didn't really aim to do this launch today initially, but probably 2.5 months ago, we said, I think we can do this. Let's really aim at doing a launch of the network during the MENA ICT Forum. So the logo and everything you see is really fresh off the print. I mean, it's from a couple of weeks ago. So the Connect.jo site, if you check right now, it's not working yet. So very key point, but it's definitely in the works. We've reserved the domain name, and inshallah, very soon we'll have that. So that's going to be the front page, if you will, of the network. And we're going to leverage a lot of tools that are available, but we'll go through that. But the objective here is to really have a two-way discussion with you all, get your feedback about what we're trying to do, we think we're trying to crack the nut, if you will, about how to engage the diaspora in Jordan, but I don't think we have all the answers. So this is definitely a two-way conversation, but we're really proud to share with you what we have. So I'm not going to drain all the slides, but speaking of drain, I mean, just some stats that actually JCP provided us with. This is a pretty big number, about 640, and this is from a year, 2 years ago almost. So 640 Jordanians live abroad. About 76,000 are in the U.S., majority in Saudi and the Gulf, and but a total of 640,000 people. That's probably a lot more now. Very highly educated population, and the objective is what can these people do to come and invest in Jordan. Like any group, we're really defined a vision and a mission to help guide us as we start to, like the video said, maintain, operate, and run this network. So I think of it like this, as sort of the NASA vision and mission. The vision is we want to put a man on the moon. The mission, we got to build a spaceship and figure out how to get it up there and how to come back. And I mean, there's a lot of details into the mission. So the vision is just the betterment of the people and economy of Jordan. Full stop. That's what that's the end game really of what Connect.jo is aiming to do. How we're going to do it is basically to build this virtual network, really destroy those physical borders and the distance that is, I mean, these days everybody's connected. So let's build on that and really build this network to connect the Jordanians abroad with Jordan. We're starting with a US chapter, that's 76,000 people, but eventually we want to expand it into others, into the UK, into the Gulf, Asia, wherever the concentration of the people are. And we're focusing on the three areas that the JCP is focusing on as well: ICT, clean technology, and healthcare and life sciences. And you see the guiding principles that we have drafted as well. I'm going to sit on this slide, I think, and then probably wrap up the presentation. But this is, if you want to, what we're trying to do on a page. So I think of it as the supply and the demand. So points of interest in Jordan: universities, for-profit companies, startups, non-profit organizations and startups, government agencies, municipalities, ministries, and then the diaspora. And we could be, these are the services that we can offer Jordan. And battery's dying. Okay. Works? Okay. So, for example, I mean, in Jordan, let's say there's a professor that has an A+ student that would love to do an internship at Google, and a Jordanian executive works at Google. That's a great example where that connection can be made, and they can say, I've got this really A+ guy or girl, and I want to send them to Mountain View and let them spend the summer and then come back. If we can make that connection, if it works, great. But the idea is let's see if those two can talk to each other and facilitate that event. Subject matter expertise. A professor, or in the U.S. I mean, Dr. Isa Batak is a good example of that. He came here and took over PSUT and went back. But somebody that's an expert in power storage and charging, right? Like Dr. Saeed. I mean, they can come here and do a presentation. Let's say I'm coming here next summer for 3 months. I'd love to give a presentation about information technology consulting or whatever it is I do. But market access, funds and venture capital. So these are, the network really lies at the middle of this and trying to connect what the needs are in Jordan versus what the diaspora can offer. So, sabbaticals, subject matter knowledge expertise, local market connections, access to venture capital, incubators, investments and donations. I mean, we aim to see maybe we can in the future be able to have a fund to help support some of these, initiatives between the two sides. So I think the objectives pretty much touched on them. And this presentation will be on the JCP website, so you can download it. But the reason we're here is we want members. This won't work by itself. We need both sides. We need the mentees and we need the mentors. We need to fill up the supply and the demand. We want people to participate because this is not going to work by itself. But you know, it's going to be a bit of an application process. We see this as you joining this network if you really have something to contribute and are willing to invest the time and the effort. If somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, "Can you help with this?" You know, we want people that are really invested in it. So we invite people to join, but also, you know, knowing that we really have high expectations, if you will. So the need for the mentors and mentees, that's key. Sample case studies, I think all sales synopsis, you were here yesterday, you heard about the electronic session and the synopsis success story. Also has been really a glowing success story. Pharmacy One is a huge success story. And these incubators here in Jordan are definitely vehicles that we can tap into the future to help the American startups or the American ideas to come and be fruitful here in Jordan. So what do you expect from us next? We really want you to join. We want you to sign up, right? That's really the goal, and the immediate goal is just build up membership, spread the word. In the next 6 months, we're gonna, inshallah, launch the website, and really, you know, we have ideas about how to operate it. LinkedIn, there's a few e-volunteering platforms, there's one called Mentor Cloud, there's a few others that, you know, the engine, how is that gonna run? That's something that we're working on defining right now. But the objective in the next 6 months is to find those champions in those 3 areas, build the network, and start running. You know, the objective of 50 projects in 5 years, I mean, that's something we want to help achieve. We want to be able in the next 5 years have 50 projects, hopefully through this Diaspora network, active and running in Jordan. And in the next 12 months, really build on the membership and inshallah expand into countries other than the United States. But I think, if I may, I mean, if Connect.Joe shuts down, hopefully it's because it's successful, not because it's not successful. So I mean, if there's no need for it anymore, that's great. I mean, that's a success story. But the group of us that were involved are very much committed to making it work and committing to it. So that's our logo. Before I give to the panel, if all of you, I'm sure all of you have cell phones with cameras, if you all can stand up. Stand up. I know it's early. Take out your phone with the camera. I want to know you're here at the launch of Connect.Joe. It's a big deal for us. So I want you to take a picture of that screen. Find your angle. What? Or a selfie if you want, Nader. That's fine. And then I want you to email it to join.connect.joe@gmail.com. Short people come to the front or stand on your chairs. Come on, you can all do it. What? All right. Everybody has a picture? All right. Just email it to join.connect.joe@gmail.com. So we know you're here. And it's on Twitter? All right, you got it. All right, so we're going to let you know when this website is up, and we'll consider this an application, inshallah, and we'll take a look at all those. But thank you for participating in that little exercise. All right, so I'll keep it on the slide, and we'll move on. Let me introduce the panel in no particular order. Saeed Hallaj, if you would please. He's the CEO and co-founder of AllSell. Nader Haddad, program manager at Synopsys. Amjad Aryan, CEO of Pharmacy One, please. Zaid Ayoub, manager of ZRTMZ Investments. and Dr. Omar Razaz, Chairman of the King Abdullah Development Fund. All right. So we're gonna spend the next, maybe hour. Really, I want this hopefully to be again a two-way conversation. So we have some questions prepared, and actually, Suha, are you here? Yeah, we have a little piece of paper that we want to spread around. Just two questions. Hopefully we already have your emails if you emailed the picture. But if you could just, it's a two-question survey to gather your ideas. If you don't have a pen, I have one I can lend you. But if you could please pass that around as we talk, that would be great. And just leave it on your chair when you leave or hand it back to someone, that would be wonderful. All right. Let me switch to my questions. Hold on. All right. Ahlan wa sahlan. All right. Let's start with some questions. Really, we were practicing, and I said, "Why are you here?" And it's like, "What do you mean by that? Am I in the right room?" But why are you here? How is this diaspora network? Really, why are you invested in making this work? Dr. Omar.
Thanks, Rami. I am delighted to be here. When Wissam told me that this is finally happening, it really meant something to me, because I think, like many of those of us here in this room, I belong to that group that somehow I spent 20 years in the United States. I never felt complete there. I was very satisfied. I went to great universities, worked, taught, had tremendous opportunities. But I felt something was missing. I constantly felt something. When I worked, my last job was with the World Bank. I would travel around, do projects in Africa, Latin America, Eastern Europe. But somehow, when I did projects in this part of the world, somehow it was more meaningful. The results were more meaningful, and it made me realize that it's this existential question: what's next for you? I realized that I need to somehow branch out and find a place for me here. I don't think there is a right or wrong answer here, that we all need to move to Jordan or we all need to stay there. It's that connection that somehow you need to make, whether you're here and move back there frequently to enrich yourself, or whether you're there and make your connections here to find a meaning for the fact that you were one of the lucky ones and you had an access and you went out. So it's about that, making that connection, whichever side of the ocean you're on, I think is what brings me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Good question. I think for me, first and foremost, it's really the affinity of and the romance of Jordan and what it offers. I mean, that's really, and I think that's what makes this network different, is we have a common land, a common place that we all belong to, that will make a lot of difference in how we connect. And like Dr. Wissam was saying, we've been actually working on this for a long, long time. I basically was trying to help do this in the tech sector for about 10 years now. And I see how networks work in the United States, and how they leverage one another, individuals leverage one another, and how the power of the network is really beyond any one individual. It is, when you have a network that works, when you have a network that has, people have common interests and common goals, you end up with incredible results that are multiplied way more than one or two or a few people put together. And I also think that this could be a good venue for all the Jordanian people everywhere, in the sense where you could help the Jordanians in the States, and I think that should be one of our main goals with this network, is for us in the diaspora to be functional and connected in the States first. And then once we have that solid, we'll be able to accentuate that beyond, and then it becomes global. Simple enough, I met my classmate, Ihab Haddadin, which I haven't seen since '83, who was in the States and now is in Saudi Arabia because of this. I mean, and he's also in the tech field, and we're recruiting him already. So, He'll be our first leader. But also, I think from a business perspective, this would help a lot. This will help create jobs, connections. This will help capacity building and knowledge transfer. This will help on business levels where we could potentially meet people that you're willing to work with and open doors. And also, I think it's a goal that the State Department in the United States actually realized that the diaspora is an incredible tool to communicate the goals and objectives of the United States and explain that to the native countries. It's much easier for me as a Jordanian to talk to Jordanians here about the United States and their policies. And the reverse is true too. I could easily communicate the Jordanian views to my American friends because I live there, I understand them, they understand me. And I think that is a very powerful thing that will help beyond just the actual network itself and its members. It will help the whole vision of where this world's going.
Thank you. I lived in the US for 21 years. I moved back to Jordan 11 years ago and started Pharmacy One. Pharmacy One is made in Jordan, made by a Jordanian who's very proud of what we were able to accomplish with 800 team members that are all Jordanians, of which 65% are women. So I'm very proud of what what we did so far. Why am I doing this? It's really giving back to Jordan for what Jordan gave me, which is the success that I was able to achieve. And what I would love to do is to be Jordan ambassador to the Jordanians in diaspora, to actually speak to Jordanians abroad about what I was able to do and and how we were able to bring talent from the US to join us. When the introduction was made, you introduced me as the CEO of Pharmacy One. I'm not the CEO of Pharmacy One. I separated between ownership and management. I actually brought back a Jordanian living in Atlanta for 22 years, who's now the CEO of Pharmacy One. His name is Dr. Yusuf Fanous. So that goes to show you that when you create opportunities, people abroad, Jordanians living abroad will actually come back and will help establish their country.
Hello, my name is Nader Haddad. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, Silicon Valley. Honored to be here. I couldn't think of anything else except a quote, for a popular quote or a famous quote for President JFK. And says, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. That quote came to my mind this morning, and it's really the feeling of volunteerism that can apply to all of us here. And when I went and first time I met Dr. Wissam in Berkeley, the idea, of course, wasn't new. There are many people in the Bay Area and maybe even in LA thought about it, but I think Dr. Wissam and others brought it into realism of how to do and the vision. And so that's what attracted me. So I came here in two folds, one for the diaspora, but I also represent a company in a semiconductor in Mountain View called Synopsys, and we have businesses here that we've established. So I come here to cover both areas.
Thank you very much. I'm really impressed with your stories. I wish I had one, but I don't. I came here because Wissam said you have to come, and I cannot say that. And is Roba here, Bazabi? Yeah, but she said if you don't come, I'll tell your family. So I had threats, so I had no choice. But really, it's inspiring. But Dr. Omar, you said something that actually touched, and I felt it. I cannot articulate what you say, but there's that gap that you feel you live, and actually I feel so blessed to have a country that is my country, which is Jordan, but my adoption country, which is the U.S. And it's a privilege, but you succeed in the U.S., but you really want to do something, and it's your earning, and I think that's what it is. And Wissam, actually, thank you very much, you and Ruba and GCP, because you want the opportunity to do something, and you get busy in life, you have kids, you have wife that won't let you travel, but But this is something that I appreciate, and I hope that we can do something. I wish this is a fascinating story, 800 jobs. I have 40 people, I don't know how to manage them, so good luck, man. But actually, I feel that, my story was very simple. I was here in Jordan in a small town, Ramtha, and a friend of mine in the US said, what are you doing? I said, well, chilling, Tahrib, in Jordan. We're doing fine, but he said, for those who this Ramtha is known for smuggling in Jordan. It's a very good business, by the way. But he asked me, he said, why didn't you come finish your PhD? And that's how it started. He paid my application fee at IIT, and the rest was unbelievable. I never thought that my life would change. I never dreamt to be in the US. This happened because of a friend who was there and who said, why didn't you come? So my dream is actually to do the same. I yearn every year, if I can help one student, I hate to say that, brain drain, I feel that if I can help a student get a scholarship, internship, training, a professor sabbatical, that will give them the chance that I had and change their life. It changed my life. And I feel that that is something that I thank the US. They say land of opportunity is cliche, but it actually, for me, I'm a story that I could not accomplish without that friend in the US coming to me and say, why don't you come and do your PhD? So again, thank you very much, Wissam and Roba, for beating me up and coming to me.
You can I'll work backwards for the next question, but that's a good segue to the next one, which is, somebody like you right now has a similar dream, right? I mean, you guys went through, you're all success stories of coming back and working in Jordan and investing in Jordan. So how would somebody right now, I met a gentleman, Jack, this morning, is thinking like, I'm taking a month off work. He works in the US as a consultant, and I want to see if I can come back and do something here. So how can Connect.Joe help him or somebody else right now that hasn't heard of it yet? I mean, that would have made maybe all of your lives easier when you first took that step.
Yeah, so like you said, I cannot speak for investment or, although, also the startup, but what I really feel that the most important, I told Wissam that there are actually real legitimate cases of people here who actually need some help that could change their life, whether it's a scholarship, whether they need someone to guide them through writing a business plan or apply to the right thing. So if someone who comes here or there can mentor people and really just show them the road. The thing about Jordanians, and I mean it, not this, they're extremely entrepreneurial. It's in their blood, it's in their heart. If you just give them the rope, just ahead and say, here's how you do it, they are very good to make, to take advantage of that. So if JCP can be the clearinghouse, to be honest with you, I'm not that busy, but these people are busy. When you write,
I found my new.
The biggest thing is the people element worldwide. Think about it. Whether government to government, state, it's the human element. When Wissam calls me and says, Saeed, I need you to help X, Y, Z, that's it. I'll drop everything, do it. And I think the same if Wissam or the network create that connectivity, which is say, this guy is really an A guy, or he deserves it, he needs your help, and this is how you can help them. That would be fantastic, because I cannot navigate through that. And honestly, it's very hard to respond to a cold email or cold call. So I think this would be the biggest, just a clearinghouse, just to say, here's what you can do. This guy needs this help, and connect them to the right people, just to mentor them, because I doubt it that anybody would spend more than half or an hour a week to really help. So if you can maximize the outcome of that by doing the due diligence, that would be fantastic.
Same question, yeah. How would have Connect.Joe, if it was there 5 years ago, have helped?
Actually, you're right. I am busy, but I wish Connect.Joe had started much earlier. To be honest with you, although not late, better than never. So, from my perspective, and what Synopsys has done in Jordan is under the umbrella of mentoring. So, Synopsys has two schools of thoughts: educate and outsource. And so we educate you for better jobs, sustainable, high-paid jobs. And actually, this model has worked for the last 2 years. And be able to utilize this brain. There are billion students apparently who are in different universities. They just need to be discovered. And so, with the help of people like Zaid and like Dr. Wissam, another professor at PSUT, they were able to bring that onto Synopsys, and Synopsys bought into it. So we have that mutual relationship between a mentor and a mentoree, and we're looking actually more to expand. I mean, I hear Wissam, knocking on these thoughts, and let's do more. Let's expand. And so I think Connect.Joe can bring that all together and can build a platform to expand across many universities, although it only worked in one. But I think that's the target.
I think Connect can and should actually work locally and also abroad. It should work locally to transform and explain to the Jordanian society what's in it for them to have people come to invest in Jordan. I recall in 2001 when I first came to Queen Ali International Airport, I took a taxi to Amman, and the taxi driver asked me, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm coming to open a pharmacy." He said, "What? Between every pharmacy there is another pharmacy. Get the hell out. They're going to steal your money and you're going to lose everything and you're going to go back to the US." That taxi driver could have cost us 800 jobs and I don't know how many homes. So we really need to start educating people here in Jordan that what's in it for them to have investors and to have Jordanians come back and start investing in Jordan. We can simplify it by telling them there will be more people using taxis. We can start with, explaining to government officials, government employees, what's in it for them. It's one thing to bring investors, but it's another thing to keep them. So I think Connect Joe should actually start working locally, not only abroad. The other thing we need to differentiate between reality and perception and reality. A lot of people, a lot of Jordanians who visit the US and other countries, they make Jordan seem like it is the hardest place to live. And we have a friend of mine, Maher Qadoura, always use a term that I really love. It's called tafsation. We really love to نطفس بعض, نطفس حالنا. So tafsation is a very common thing. We need to stop the tafsation process and start looking at the glass half full instead of half empty. The other thing, grass is not greener on the other side of the fence. I agree with you, the US gave me a huge opportunity. I started in the US, I left to the US in 1984, worked for 5 years as a carpet cleaner, started university at the age of 23. I wouldn't have had this opportunity if it was not for me being there. But at the same time, the US has multiple challenges. If I would go to the US and open a pharmacy, I will have to obtain 40 different licenses before I can operate. So let's not make it seem like Jordan is a difficult place to live. Jordan is a difficult place to obtain, licenses and do 1, 2, 3, 4. We should try Saudi Arabia. We have pharmacies in Saudi. Jordan is blessing compared to Saudi. So what I'm trying to say, Connect.Joe should actually help people locally and also abroad to make Jordan a better place to do business.
Great point. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish Connect.Joe was here a long time ago. My journey started in Jordan in terms of business in 2003. And I set up a design center to do electronic design to test chips, to test ICs. And I came to the iPark, I met with Amar Hamarni. I didn't know many people really. I mean, I knew friends and family, but not in this discipline. Had Joe Connect been there, I would have easily tapped into the network and figured out who is in the electronics field, who knows, who could touch this stuff, who potentially could help me how to set up the company, how to set up the design center, where can I find engineers, which university has these programs that I could go and tap into engineers from. So there's a lot of on-the-ground activities that the network can do and help from a business and from a vetted perspective. Like Saeed said, when Wissam calls, I know Wissam, he knows me, I'll take his call and I'll follow his lead. Somebody sends me an email or you go to a government agency and they tell you to do something, you're going to be skeptical about it. So there's the connectivity piece, I think, that would really help a lot on the ground. The other thing is, when we did J-Tronics, which is an initiative by King Abdullah Fund and Iris Guard to establish electronic design industry, not just a center, but an industry in Jordan. Tapped into with Dr. Wissam Rabadi at iPark, Dr. Isa Batasi, who was the head of PSUT, Ahmad Malhash, who was with Iris Guard, who was studied and had companies actually in the United States. And we attracted the design automation companies, Synopsys being one of them, Mentor Graphics and a couple of others, to come and donate their tools to the universities. These are tens of millions of dollars worth of tools. We found an incredible Dr. Khaldoun Abu Gharbiya, who used to work at Intel, a Stanford graduate, worked in the semiconductor industry for probably 15 years or so, to deploy these tools and educate engineers on how to use these tools and touch silicon design. We took these engineers, put them in Armenia, again at Synopsys, a US company, to train. We brought them back. We opened up a design center for them, a commercial design center for them, that today employs 32 engineers that are actually doing work for Synopsys in the United States. And these designs are ending up at Intel, at Motorola, at all of these technology companies. All of this is done by Diaspora, US, educated US expatriates that came back to Jordan. And this was an individual effort that we kind of connected and did it. So we've been doing it kind of loosely, but if Connect that Joe was there, it would have been so much easier because you could connect the dots, who does what where, and put the whole thing together.
We all agree that we wish Connect.Joe was here 10 years ago. But I definitely think not only is it not too late, but we're entering a stage where now it matters much more that it's there than it would have before. Every country in the world now, as you all know, is struggling either to create its own creative class or to attract that creative class into its own country. Jordan has had the very ironic labor market where it sends its creative class abroad and it imports unskilled labor to the country. So the countries of the world are struggling. They all have a traditional pyramid of the creative class being the top of the pyramid, and they struggle to reverse that pyramid of having a creative class, highly professional people of an inverted pyramid. Yet Jordan constantly invests in that, but he continues to send people from the top of the pyramid and invite people at the bottom of the pyramid. So we are in a situation, for better or worse, where much of our creative class is around the world. And that's where Connect.Joe comes in. I would love to see Connect.Joe become the plug and play of the diaspora, of exactly finding the niche that you can fit in without spending the hours and the effort that we all had to go through early on. And either now or in the next round, I can talk about the ecosystem that is now more or less ready in Jordan. And the King Abdullah Fund invested in J-Tronics early on, in Oasis 500 later at a later stage. Now we're about to launch the Creative Industries Fund, the Clean Tech Fund in 2015. The idea is to create the environment on the investment side for the new creative class to come into these environments, be linked in with the Jordanian creative class from the outside, and create that virtuous circle instead of the vicious circle that Jordan found itself in. The key to Jordan is for us to create jobs in Jordan. And I think the creative class can do this by tapping into the fresh graduates that are coming out and really giving them that edge. They do have some, we all know the problems that academia faces in Jordan, but I really think the edge we can provide. I'll just say one last story about the future, and I'd be happy to talk more about it because it's still in the formation. I don't think Yusuf is with us, Yusuf Hamiduddin, the CEO of Oasis, but we were in Turkey 6 months ago, and we had a meeting with EIB, the European Investment Bank. EIB was looking in partnership with the European Space Agency, ESA. We're looking to partner with one MENA country, Mediterranean country, to give all the IPs of ESA, the European Space Agency, create a fund with that country, put all the IPs, and find ways to commercialize the IPs that ESA was producing. And they were looking at Turkey, Egypt, Tunisia, and Jordan. And after they did their part, we did our part, every country, they picked Jordan to create a fund where these IPs can be placed. Now, these IPs will be worth zero without the diaspora connection in Jordan. However, with the right network of scientists, researchers, engineers, people who can start up companies around some of these IPs, this fund alone can transform Jordan's future and send it leaping into a different direction. So this is where I feel just one story like this with this type of network can really do marvels.
Good point, thank you. All right, so a couple of questions that maybe are softballs, easier ones. A bit of a harder question is, what's so special about Connect Ajo? I know I've had chats with Zaid about prior efforts and not successful, so I don't know if all of you have insight into past efforts, but if you do, I'd love to get your insight or input into what does this network have to do to sustain itself and remain? Go ahead.
Good question, tough question. I think it goes back to, there's really two basic, items that would hopefully make this more of a success. The first is the affinity and similarity of the backgrounds and the affinity of the country. That's a common thing with all Jordanians outside Jordan and inside Jordan. And so that's a common bond that I think comes natural. The other thing is we're looking to be a professional network that is focused on creative, focused on technology, focused on medical sciences, and that also creates another type of common bond for the members. We should entertain expanding it maybe to retail, expanding it to, but it's still going to stay as a professional type network. Like we said, it's not a political, we're non-religious, we're non-social, well social, but we're not here to have Mensah, We will have Mensah, but
I quit.
Now, I was involved with the setup of, I don't know if you guys heard of TechWadi. TechWadi is an organization in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, that we started in 2004. And the idea was to do a regional MENA setup for all IT engineers. And give you some statistics about this, which is kind of interesting. 42% of startups in Silicon Valley have at least one individual that's not born in the United States. A third of the 314 Nobel Prize winners in the United States up until 2010 are not born in the United States. So we did this research while we're forming TechWadi, and we figured out that about 15% of startups have at least one founder or investor that is of Arab American descent. So we said, okay, let's do this network. We're going to do it MENA, the whole MENA region, and we actually included some parts of Iran also because they didn't have a network as well. It's up and running, it's doing phenomenal now. There's probably about 2,500 C-level executives on it. But it's great, and it's very well connected, but became kind of an incubator for the whole Middle East. It's not just, and even for the United States as well. And I felt there's a need to do something for Jordan. When you're focused and when you're together, it kind of, there's enough common bonds to keep it going. Our friends, the Lebanese people, did what's called LabNet, and we were lucky to have them come when His Majesty was in Berkeley, and their founder and CEO told us what not to do. And now they're very strong. They do activities on a quarterly basis. Even though I'm Jordanian, but I'm a member. I don't know why they let me in, but and it works. It works really good for them. And now they're getting actually sponsored in Lebanon come back and do a lot of stuff here. So I think it's the focus, and it's the focus both in terms of background and the country affinity and the actual discipline. Hopefully will make us different.
I'm going to put the hat of the Jordanian who still lives in the US, and what would he be probably looking for. We need to start telling people abroad to start investing in humans, not in concrete. Most of our people living abroad, whether in the US or in the Gulf, when they think of investing in Jordan, they think of investing in buying an apartment, building a building, so it's on concrete. They don't really invest in a lot of humans. But when I lived in the US, I looked forward to giving back, and giving back was connected only with money. People living abroad are sick and tired of being invited to fundraising events to collect money to be sent home. I think Connect can show them that they can contribute and give back in so many different ways, not only in just giving back with money. They can give with time, experience, mentoring, so forth and so on. So I think Connect has a great chance of succeeding because the way it's asking people to give back is through knowledge and know-how and time, not through money. So people in the US will probably love doing it. The second thing, I want to go back to the perception. We really need to start changing the perception of Jordanians living in the US to what is Jordan today. A lot of them left 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, and Jordan of 2001, when I first came here, is totally different than Jordan of 2014. It evolved, it changed, but those people living abroad still think of it the same way it used to be 25 years ago. So we really need to educate them and show them what is Jordan today and what is the reality of what Jordan is today, so they can actually come in and help Connect Joe to help, whether it's students going to the US for internship or anything else. I want to share with you a story. My son is studying law at George Washington, and he called me yesterday, and he's studying political science, and he's going to law school after, and he asked me one thing. He said, do you think I will ever have a chance of entering politics in Jordan? And my answer was, you can do anything you set your heart and mind to do. If this is what you want, you can probably do it. Nobody can tell you otherwise. So even our students, my son graduated from King's Academy here and left to the US, they think early on that they want to give back to the country. And I think it's amazing. And we really need to educate our children that they can go learn, gain knowledge, but they should really always think of coming back.
So I am one of that camp, left Jordan 25 years ago, and I admit I truly still think, continue to think the way Jordan works as maybe 20 years ago. But I come here every year, and I come here for vacation, and I don't really meet the business people and figure out more than what I do at my job. And so the idea is to educate more. Connect.Joe actually did a part of this for me. As a matter of fact, 2 years ago, a VP asked me, because I'm Jordanian, said, we do want to start expanding semiconductor in the MENA region. Would you be able to go? And it happened to be during the protests and Egypt and all, and it came at the wrong time, to be honest with you, and that scared the hell out of me. But I admit that I need to educate myself better, and I think Connect.Joe can do a lot this for me. And the other thing also, I believe in every person in the United States who's Jordanian has his own personal network. You will never know how powerful that network. It doesn't matter what what he is and what his position in the United States. Because I've run into many people who has their niche network, if you will, and I met and I gained a lot of knowledge through. So I think that we should utilize every person network to enhance the bigger network, and that's how we can expand. And it's a mutual relationship between the Connect.Joe and the individual diaspora, whether in San Francisco or Washington. And I think that they all going to come together at one point.
Sorry, I forgot the question. I didn't know what you're asking.
What can Connect.Joe do to sustain itself and be successful if prior efforts have failed?
Sure, yeah. Actually, that's important. Championship. If you recall when His Majesty has folks were cracked, Wissam, and I'll be very blunt, every one of us has a dream to do this. This is not our core thing. I will not lead it. I don't know about you, Omar or Zain. I cannot. I have to work for a living. If you don't continue to provide the championship, someone with the whip and the curd, and when I come, you invite me for Mensa, it's not going to continue. So you need champions. And Wissam, every time this start and stop, it's because nobody owned it. And everybody, you can see, everybody's yearning to do something. Everybody's yearning to contribute. It's volunteer time. And you make a very good point, Amjad. That's not just, you don't ask for someone just to pull out their wallet and do it. There's so many better ways that they can change people's life, which is much more impactful. But you need champions. So if you really want this to work, I know everybody here will help, but you have to have continuous champion here. And JCP and USA, I'm telling you, this is a fantastic effort and fantastic catalyst to do this. And if you drop it, I bet you $10. Within 6 months, you're going to find it very hard to go back again.
Credibility, right? You'll lose.
I'm sorry?
Just $10.
That's all I can afford.
Well, if I may answer my own question, but a little bit adding on what Zaid said about talking to the LabNet guys in Berkeley, and going back to what you said, I think Illy was his name. Yeah, he said, at one point it was just him and somebody else remaining in the network, and they almost said, that's it, we're done, we gave this a shot, and they stayed persistent. It had its ebbs and flows, it almost just collapsed. And they said, we got to keep this alive in a heartbeat. And they picked it back up. And they've been around for 16 years, maybe more. Yeah. And they're very successful. And another thing that I wanted to add is, we're not reinventing the wheel, or I hope we're not, in starting this up. Wissam was kind enough to connect us with a lot of diaspora networks, and we attended a few webinars. I've talked to a few experts. The Thai, the Indian, the Scandinavian nations are very successful in engaging their diaspora. So we're not reinventing the wheel and trying to figure out how to do this. We have the high-level steps, I think, mapped out, but we do need the champions. We need the commitment. We need to be persistent, right?
I have a question. I'm sorry. Maybe I should have asked Wissam and GC. This is a 3-5 year effort that you're doing. So you guys are committed to this, right? For the next 3 years.
This is the second time Wissam has been put on the spot.
I saw Chris running out when I got there. But this is critical. If you guys are committed to 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, if I may, yeah, you're absolutely. But I think these things sometimes fail because there is no champion or because of the champion. So you really need to institutionalize these things. You need an institution to help. We're here for 3-4 years. We will continue supporting it. But eventually somebody like maybe King Abdullah Fund or somebody, some institution who will take that, institutionalize the process to sustain it and make sure it exists. But if somebody, if the whole thing rotates about one person, that scares me.
No, so my point about this, because if you provide the continuation, there's a saying, success has many fathers, failure is an orphan. So if you have created the nucleus and you have the commitment of the people and you grow it to a tipping point, I'm sure that then that would encourage others to just say, okay, I'll take it, I'll house it. But you're not there yet. So I just want to stress, you have not built it yet. When you built it, you have some momentum. You reach a tipping point that I'm sure a local institution I know JIB or whatever it is, somebody will host it, and because they will have something that actually with tremendous value. But as of today, it's a burden. So if you take it through this step, which is the incubation step, I honestly believe in 2-3 years, it will be a totally different story. Actually, people will fight over it, I hope.
Yeah.
Just to share with you a little bit about what
Yeah,
other.
I'm gonna next step.
Really briefly, the Thai organization, which is the Indian Diaspora IT-specific network, that started actually in Silicon Valley, but now it's worldwide. The 15,000 members strong. The leader of the network has to be an Indian diaspora person in the States, an executive in a high-tech company that quits his job or takes a sabbatical from his job for a year to run the network, and it's on rotation, which is really an interesting model. And this is as you grow. LabNet, what they've done now is they actually have enough critical mass and funds coming in from membership and or from events that they hired an individual to actually being a managing director for it. So I think the first 2 to 3 years are very crucial to get to critical mass, but once we have many options in how to sustain it.
All right, we have 20 minutes exactly. I wanted to give it to the audience, and they ask here, whatever your question is, but I really hope you can challenge the people on the podium. And also, if you think you want to use this, what do you expect from it? We have.
I have something here. It's great that you guys coming back and supporting, the young Jordanians. But there are maybe a girl in Ramka that how can she connect with this? There are challenges, economic challenge, and Dr. Omar knows best about challenges, about economy, about mindset. People, they're not trusting so many platforms that many of them started here. How can we educate people to trust such a platform and to reach out to not graduates of the baccalaureate school, but people from outside Amman?
I think that's the point that I tried to make in the beginning. So first of all, there's two folds to it, and I'm from Ramka, which is outside Amman. I went to public school. I went to my family paid for me, so I'm not connected. And it was that friend, right? Mm-hmm. Now, whether you're female or male, and things changed from 20 years ago, but still, I have friends, female friends who succeeded overseas. I have a sister who actually independent worked in Saudi Arabia because she wanted that degree. So it's about connection. I cannot, first family trust. Jordan is a traditional country. If they say, when someone, if my friends say, my daughter wants to study in Chicago, there's no way in hell that send her to Chicago, right? Exactly. So, but for us, that's where it comes, you create a family environment for her. And I have a friend who's, a sister studying there. I'm not babysitting her, but he went back, she stayed there, but every week she came to my house with my wife. So you can create that for traditional, although she's living in her dorms.
Sorry, but not just traditional. I mean how you reach out for these people, how you educate them.
Well, I can't. I can't reach out. What happens is my family, right? That's it. But that's what I said, that this network can help that. Jordan now, if you look at the female, in the school, I'm lucky I'm in education. Unbelievable talent. I look at them like, holy, they're off the charts. But, I cannot take the responsibility to reach out to a female or male on my own. But if there's a channel that goes and picks the best and the brightest and incubate them or, nurture them, I think that's the best way, honestly. I don't think, let people speak for themselves. I'm not going to take a cold call from someone I don't know, it's a female or a male.
Exactly.
But if it's this, and they have to find a way to reach out outside of Amman. Exactly. Jordan, Amman is, actually my family moved to Amman, so we're poisoned. But that's the challenge in Jordan. One person outside Amman can change his whole family. And Amman is good for him and his, himself. But
they have that opportunity. Like a girl or a boy, they can't go abroad by themselves. They would need such I'm sure, an amazing network like Connect the Joe. But for people outside of Amman, they need it much more. They need the education. They need that changed mindset to just give them the push. So this is my question: how to reach out for, hopefully and I'm sure there is like a strategy in reaching out for people outside Amman. So that's
You're absolutely correct.
I think that's a very good point, and I think Wissam touched upon that, is that, yeah, we're committed for 3 to 5 years, and we want to institutionalize this. So if you create an institution and advertise it through education, through your laptop, and I don't know whether Ramta is connected or not, to be honest, but the very point that he's talking about, when you institutionalize this and have part of the one sector here to reach out locally, because if I were to reach out from the United States, I would be maybe out of my league to even convince her or change that mindset. And I think you need local people to change that mindset because they speak the language. Zaid said it's easy for me to talk to Jordanians, for example, to convince them and expand. So I don't think it's completely across the oceans, and you need people here to talk the language to change that mindset first. And that's, I think, the initial prerequisite, if you will.
There's a question in the back. You were in there.
Can I make just one comment, please, about the same issue? I think we should not give up trying to change the mindset of people one person at a time, and we can change it. But what we really need is role models that go to schools, to public schools, and speak to people about their own experiences. Myself, I am a graduate, I'm a proud graduate of a public school, and I turned to be fine. I mean, I'm okay. I'm also the chairman. I'm also the chairman of Injaz, and Injaz is an organization that really helped a lot of students, all over the kingdom, to connect with mentors and connect with role models to show them that we breathe the same air and we drink the same water.
I just want to add something about it. I'm not sure if you have considered it actually. Probably Connected Joe should have a social aspect of it. And I was thinking when she was addressing the question, probably I thought about exchange type of tools in here, in which, like we do for exchange students, maybe we can adopt something like this. People who are living in the States can actually accommodate people who are willing to just at least try to see the environment, to test it first, before they commit their future to going there and to studying or to working there. So probably there should be an aspect of it. I'm not saying that it's going to be another Facebook or something like that, but there has to be probably a social part of this connected dojo.
Good point they have. I think that we will at some point institute some outreach programs to address education, address awareness, address perception in Jordan and actually in the States as well. But we gotta stay, at least in the beginning, focused on what we're trying to do and who we are. It is professionals. I mean, this is a network for people that are in professional fields, that are of common, background and common interest, that will connect together. Definitely we should have outreach programs, we should have exchange programs. Initially we're going to launch with the idea of having students that are excelling in universities come and take scholarships in the States. And we already actually have commitments. I believe that Raisa secured some commitments from UC Berkeley for the top engineering students to come and do their masters and PhDs. He's been doing it all along in Central Florida State. And these are things that are part of the network, but the social aspect of it, I think, will probably come in at a later stage, just because we're too young right now to do too many things. Is what I thought.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Abdullah. Thank you for your presentation. So I missed the very beginning. I apologize if I asked something that has already been talked about. A little bit about me, just so you know where I'm coming from. I'm a first-generation Palestinian American, and I've moved back to the region, I think 4 times. I'm in my mid-30s now, so I just keep coming back. I just moved back 2 months ago. And I want to ask you what you're thinking about in terms of reaching out to people like me and reaching out to your professionals who've left Jordan through their children and the networks that exist amongst us, the younger generation, in places like the United States. So I'll throw it out there, a couple of ideas. So for example, the Network of Arab American Professionals, which is NAP in the United States, is very, very active. I've lived in Washington, D.C. for a total of 8 years or so, and there are tons of networks there, and we're very, very active, and I've been connected to them myself since the late 90s. So that's an idea in terms of asking also what kind of partnerships are you developing with existing institutions. You talk about not reinventing the wheel. So there's NAP, there's the Fulbright Network, which I'm hoping you're connected to here as well, the Fulbright office here, maybe on East, and all of the networks that they provide internationally to professionals, to folks who are leaving for education outside of the country. I would say a lot of folks like me who are first generation are the product of parents who left for education, right? So they left for professional purposes. So I just wanted to know what you're doing in terms of partnerships and reaching out to folks in our generation, because a lot of us are coming back and a lot of us want to help, as you've even talked about earlier. Our people back in the Middle East and in our own home countries as well. And so just challenge you as well to consider going that direction and ask you what you're doing already on that.
I think we should hire you. My team.
What are you doing right now?
I'm free.
Are you free? Great job. I'll just tell you very briefly, we literally had the business cards printed on Tuesday at 5:45 p.m. So this is fresh. This is really, really new. So we're really just starting out, but you bring out excellent points, and a couple of the people we talked to from the diaspora in the United States, a lady by the name of Julian Shewat, Dr. Julian Shewat was here a couple of weeks ago, and the first thing when I talked to her about this, she's definitely engaged and she loves the idea. And she's, okay, so who are you tapping into? What networks are you going to be with the RAND Institute? Are you going to be with the Aspen Institute? Who's on your board? Who's your advisory board? How are we going to connect with all these networks? And the answer is yes. I think we need to do this, and early on. We want to work with all existing networks. I think we complement one another. And social networks, by the way. There's a lot of social clubs, Jordanian social clubs in the States that we'll work with. And their charter is social. Our charter is a little different. TechWadi would be a partner. LabNet, we already asked them to help us out, and hopefully they'll join our advisory board. So the answer, but we don't have any schedules and details, and that will come.
So I love NAP. I actually was, I sat on the NAP board in San Francisco. They had a chapter, and it was new, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I think it's a successful network. I met a lot of people, from different backgrounds, and like Zed said, that I think should be the next step to tap into those networks and select the right people who have the heart to help. But again, in terms of social, there are many organizations in the Bay Area, and I think there are capable people that we need to look after to join us, and so NAP is probably one of them.
I have a question.
Sam, I'm sorry, what's your name?
We know her.
You know her? Okay. So you know what?
Jennifer.
So instead of challenging us, I'm going to challenge you. Because you actually can do a great role, which you, for example, and the people who came back had the opportunity. I think it's a privilege to be able to come back. Many of us cannot. I really wish that you want to come back, but many times your economic, your life, all that. So for those of you here, actually the best you can do is actually network here, because when you know how it's there, you know who you can change someone's life, and you know what the real opportunity you create. And that's what I mean, the channel. If you create the nucleus here, channel it through the institutional process or you through network, once it's about people. It's all, if you send an email to Wissam, or to Zaid or one of these guys, it will be totally different. You can change someone's life. So I'm going to challenge you. You know how it is. You know how challenging it is to get there and come back here, and the stigma and whether you can come back or not. Each one has a different story, different opportunity. Some can, some cannot. You can take advantage of that. You can explain it here, and you can take the opportunity to help here more than anybody else. So I hope that you guys can make a difference because you're the ones who have the opportunity and the privilege of living both ways.
I have a question. I'm supposed to be on your side. I'm Mace from GSA, but I have what I think is a valid question. And this is general actually to all of the speakers, if you may. If you go back in time, knowing what you know now, would you still take the same decision of moving out and knowing what you know about the different opportunities that could be available for you in Jordan and for the whole MENA region? Would you still go and stay and just give back to your homeland, or would it be different? Is part of the education and the awareness you want to create for our youth would be like, actually, you can do it here without the need of to get outside, and you can get exposure in a different format. Would that be a valid question?
I have one comment. I think it goes back to the taxation, Yusuf. I think it's a valid point. Honestly, in my time, there was challenges. I had to leave, but the taxation needs to be eliminated very quickly.
I think we would be making a mistake if we convince our youth that the only way they can create future is if they leave abroad, if they travel out of Jordan. I know of so many success stories of people who lived in Jordan all their life, never been outside. And with the internet, with the technology, they can be exposed to whatever they want to be exposed to without having to leave. Personally, you know, if I have to do it all over again, I will do the same exact thing. I will come back to Jordan. And I started with Pharmacy One, and today I established, I founded another 6 companies, one of which is a brand new chain of convenience stores called Jiwar. It's just another thing I started, and it's creating more jobs, and it has to do with what I do and what I know, which is retail. So I think if I die and live again, I would come back to Jordan again.
I agree. For me, I wouldn't do it any other way. Especially our generation, we didn't have the access to the social media, the internet, etc., as much as the current generation has. I think the trick is, and this is something Jordan has to work on, is creating an environment of multiculturalism, tolerance, openness, pluralism, being exposed, being willing, and this takes us back to our educational systems and the importance of reforming curricula and the educational environment. So I fully agree that you don't have to actually go out to get exposed, but you do have to open your mind in a somewhat different way than what we see our schools doing currently. The one thing, and maybe it's a tall order for us now. Maybe this is something we need to think about 4 or 5 years from now. However, I really think we, as a group, we can challenge the Ministry of Education. And this has to do with equal opportunity in Ramtha and Tafile and Karak and what have you, to create 3 magnet schools in the north, in the middle and the south for boys and for girls,